In this video, you're going to learn my favorite goal setting technique for athletes. Hey there, my name's Eli Straw and I'm the founder of SuccessStartsWithin.com. With it being the start of a new year, I think it's always great to talk about setting goals for yourself as a player. Now, you may be in the middle of the season, you may be towards the beginning of the season if you play a spring sport, but either way, we're at the start of a new year. And this can be a fantastic time for you to look out and think, okay, what do I want to accomplish by the end of this year? But when we're setting goals for sports specifically, we do want to think about that long-term goal that you want. But we honestly want to focus more on something known as process goals. Now, this is the goal setting technique that I favor over any other goal setting technique. And it's about setting process goals that you can focus on each and every week, each and every day, and specifically each and every game to get you to perform your best. Now, process goals involve setting goals and objectives that are more about, things that you're going to do, actions you're going to take. For example, let's say that you are a baseball player, you're at the beginning of the season or, kind of getting ready to start the season coming up here in the spring. And you say that your big goal for this year is you want to hit above 300. Maybe you hit 287 last year, and so you just want to hit above 300 for this season. That is a fantastic goal for you to have for yourself. Now, if we're going to look at the process side of that, what would the process be in order for you to hit over 300? Now, here's where we start to get into all the small little details. Now, why do you think that it's more important for us to focus on this process instead of focusing on this large outcome, which is hitting 300? Well, the reason has to do with a lot of mental game challenges, but it also has to do with the plain and simple fact that any outcome that we set, any goal that we set, is going to only be accomplished by doing all the small steps that it takes to accomplish the goal in the first place. So if we're talking about where do we need to place our focus, where do we need to place our attention, it needs to be on the process. Now we can also get into more of, kind of the mental game challenge side of this. Now a mental game challenge, what that is and what that means is it's something that can hold you back. It's also known as a mental block. A really common mental block that I see in athletes that I work with within one-on-one coaching, which, by the way, if you are interested in learning more about one-on-one mental performance coaching, I've put a link to that in the description below. Now, one of the main challenges I see in athletes that I work with is the fear of failure. This is where you are afraid of making a mistake. You really have a fear of, maybe the embarrassment that you might feel if you do make a mistake. Another reason why you might be afraid is being afraid of losing your starting position. Now, when you have the fear of failure, this can cause you to, honestly play to avoid mistakes more than you are playing to succeed. And that's seems like a small difference, but that's a huge difference in terms of your confidence and the aggressiveness that you play with. Now, if you set an outcome goal and that's all that you focus on, so all you're focused on is hitting 300, one of the things that I've seen happen is that when you start to go play games, hitting 300 becomes so much of what you focus on that you almost become afraid of getting out because you know that every time you get out, you're almost keeping yourself further and further away from getting that goal. So sometimes we can see those outcome goals, if we focus on them too much, turn into a negative because they can lead to mental blocks like the fear of failure. It can also lead to some performance anxiety where if you're so worried about, I got to get a hit today because I need to get my batting average up so I'm closer to hitting 300, that can lead to anxiety. Now, anxiety, fear, and any other mental block or challenge, it's only going to hold you back and it's only actually going to keep you from performing your best and reaching that goal that you've set for yourself. So this goal setting technique involves focusing more on the process, trusting that the process is what's going to lead to you reaching the goal that you want in the first place. And so that's why, for step one of this goal setting technique, you are going to identify the outcome. We can't focus on the process if we don't know where we're trying to get to. And that's why it is going to be very important for you to set an outcome goal to begin with. I was going through this goal setting process with a swimmer that I was working with just about 2 days ago. And we were going over this system and we were saying, okay, what's going to be that outcome that you want by the end of the season? And it kind of surprised him because so much of what he and I have focused on is about getting his attention off of what's his time going to be for this race. But we actually worked on setting kind of time objectives and time goals for the end of the year. So we're talking 12 months in the future. So what I want you to do right now, if you're following along and going through this goal setting process right now, is set that outcome goal. What's that long-term goal that you want for yourself, by the end of this year or by the end of this season? What's that long-term goal? Now for step number 2, I want you to start reverse engineering and just brainstorming what is the process involved in reaching that outcome. For example, with the swimmer that I was working with a few days ago, his process involved improving his technique, working on specific aspects of his technique that, he really needs to improve, listening to his coach, showing up for training consistently, all those small details. If we're going off of the baseball player example, where there's the baseball player that wants to hit above 300 for the season, his process might include training that he's doing during the week. It might also include his pre-at-bat routine when it comes to actual games. It might include how he's evaluating his at-bats. So we know that there are all these steps that are involved in reaching outcomes. So what I want you to do right now for step 2 is begin to brainstorm. What are all of the pieces and the steps to the process that are going to give me the best chance of reaching that outcome that I've set for myself? Now, step number 3, what you want to do is you want to start getting very, very specific and simple about what you need to be focused on each and every day. So this third step, or this third part of the goal setting technique, is actually more of an ongoing process. This is where you have that idea, you have that end goal in mind, that outcome that you're trying to achieve. Now you know all the steps that are going to, be involved in reaching that outcome. Well, now what you need to do is you need to think, what do I need to focus on tomorrow to start helping me reach that outcome? What do I need to focus on the next day? Make sure that you begin setting yourself what are known as daily objectives, daily performance objectives. These performance objectives can take place in terms of your practice. These performance objectives can also take place in terms of games. But when you start to get very, very clear on what is the process aspect of my game that I want to focus on today, and you do that consistently, day in and day out, that's what actually gives you the best chance of reaching that outcome that you've set for yourself. Now, whenever we're talking about setting outcomes and then also setting process goals, we can't help but think about the confidence that's involved and the confidence that needs to be built along the way in order for you to ultimately reach that outcome and ultimately perform your best. So what I've done right here is I've linked another video that goes into detail on some confidence building exercises that you can start putting in place while you're really focusing on this process and setting these process goals for practices and games.